Going. Okay, this is Jan Ravel, and right now I'm going to interview Ellen Newman. Ellen, it's really nice to finally meet you, kind of
Yes,
in person, right?
yes, right.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So, would you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Jan. And it is nice to meet you too. It's kind of fun to I love this is why I love Zoom. We get to meet people in person.
Right.
A little bit about me. I'm a former corporate executive in the healthcare arena, and I left that about 8 years ago. And I decided to transform my life literally and become a life coach. I loved mentoring people in the healthcare arena, and I thought, gosh, my life's not done. So that's what I do now. I coach women and women executives and entrepreneurs into how to really live their life without anxiety and stress, or at least minimize it and keep it in a box so that they live their life with a sense of balance and that they live their life as if they're truly living like a CEO, and that they can go hit the golf course and not leave with like, oh my God, I didn't do this. You know how generally, and not a diss on men, but they could always leave the executive room and it's like, I've got a tea time. And women, we tend to stress. It's like, oh no, I've got this, and this left. It's like, no, I teach women like, no, we can leave it. We can leave the boardroom and go do what we need to do, our own personal time, and have that balance
Mhm.
and know that we've delegated, we're in charge, we are the CEO, and we can have that balance and we can leave the anxiety and the stress of all that behind and still thrive. So I coach people how to do that. And by doing that, I'm a nerd in many ways. I'm a scientist because of my all of my allopathic training as a former nurse, but I'm also a woo-woo girl. So I bring in all the right brain tools of, crystals and feng shui and meditation and tapping and mind mapping, and bringing in, mind mapping is what I'm giving away in this particular virtual event. I'm so excited. I do two types of mind mapping when I work with people. This particular mind mapping offer that I'm, presenting is a program where I literally will give you a customized mind map, and it's a drawing where it has all these splashes of colors and tasks that you might do in your business or in your life, right? We all have
Mhm.
these genres of tasks that we do, and multiple modalities of services that we provide, but then we break it down to like, oh, what am I doing here, here, and here? And we get so um on stuck in like, I don't even know what to do next, and we get overwhelmed, we get anxious with those tasks. And so what I do is I chunk it down. That's a famous phrase that I use in my coaching. I chunk it down, and
That's
that's
the
what the
that's
mind.
the official legal term, right? Chunking it down.
Yes, that's my official legal term. I go through that all the time. That's my official term. I chunk it down, CID. And I make sure that you leave with a little map that all right, you're going to chunk this particular thing down into doable pieces. And you're walking away. It's like, oh, there's this moment. It's like, oh, I got this now.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of refreshing, and you're empowered again.
Mhm.
And so it's really simple and easy to do, and there's a whole different mind map that takes a little bit longer to do. It's certainly about an hour or two long to do, but this one's pretty simple and easy. It's a quick hit that people can get, and it's fun, and it's really creates a result for people. So
That's great. Now,
yeah.
is this the general gift or is this the raffle prize?
This is going to be both. Somebody can wrap, I generally do this for $200 because this takes me when I build a custom gift. This is, I build it custom around what's going on in their life, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if I work with somebody, this is a custom tool. But I can do this now pretty quickly. So I'm going to give this to whoever sets up an appointment with me. So I can, and they're going to, what they'll do is they'll click on and, and I know the raffle is different. They'll click on it and they'll get a 30-minute session with me for free. And
Mhm,
that's a $200 session where they
mhm.
get this mind mapping and they'll get this customized gift. Now, the other raffle gift is a 4-week course on money and mindset.
Oh,
And that's where they're understanding, how does my mindset interplay with how I play with money?
mhm.
And it's really, they're going to get that opportunity to sign into that course for 50% off. So that's just whoever wants to win that, or whoever gets to win that raffle gets a full 50% off.
All
So
right, all right.
there you go.
And I don't remember, did we determine how many raffle prizes you're offering?
I'm offering one right now. I'll
Okay,
see if I can offer more, but right now it's one.
one works. That
Yeah.
that works. Okay, so if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, well, I'm going to back up. I want to know a little bit about your background. You said you were in nursing and you
I
were
was.
in, so were you, talk to us a little bit about your background.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I started out, I worked as a nurse in my first job was in psych. I worked with
Mhm,
kids, adolescents, and young adults. From there, I moved into cardiac nursing. I got trained and I did cardiac nursing. I was a nurse on a cruise ship and I traveled all over the world as a nurse. I came back and worked in Miami and in critical care. I did that. And I worked in critical care a lot of my life and worked in surgical nursing on the floor and then went back into telemetry and critical care and cardiac rehab. That was really my forte, is cardiac nursing,
mhm,
and eventually moved into doing business development for hospitals. Doctors trusted me. I was always one of those nurses that doctors liked because I liked them. We had
mhm.
a friendly, there are some nurses that just don't like doctors, and I could call them and say, hey, I don't like the medicine you ordered for somebody. I think it's a little bit too high, a little bit too low. They knew I knew what I was talking about, and I
Mhm,
wanted to make sure everybody was safe. And so they trusted what I had to say to them, and I always trusted I was never above them. I mean, I
mhm,
never put myself that way or communicated that way. I just wanted to collaborate a little bit with them and just give them my thoughts. And they listened. And sometimes they said, no, Joe, this is why I made this decision. And I said, okay, I understand. But as I grew, I began to make business decisions. And so I began writing business programs for hospitals where it would set up a whole system of where multiple physicians could work together, where patients in the community could come to a hospital and for a service that they didn't have before, that you might find at a university setting. So I worked for different hospitals at the same time,
mhm,
and that was very interesting. I learned how to build, the business side of it, how much insurance would pay for a particular program and things like that. So from there, after that, obviously I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree. After that, I managed emergency rooms across the nation. So I really I went from clinical to business and then mastering, working with physicians and nurse
mhm,
practitioners across the country in many states.
mhm.
And I managed about 13 or 14 hospitals across the country, emergency rooms. And thank God I did not do it during COVID, because I never
Uh,
would have lived through that.
yeah.
I did lose doctors through that. I left just before COVID, and it's just what happened. Those things were real, and it
Mhm,
was tough, but I left just on the cusp of it, and from there I learned how to become a coach, and coaching really settled me down, where I learned the difference from my energy and the other people's energies of everyone I was working with.
mhm,
Being a
mhm,
nurse, you're always a caregiver, And so you learned how to separate the stress of your own and the stress of someone else's. And I think that's one thing that we tend to do as women. It's like, what's mine and what's not mine. We take
Mhm.
on so many people's stress levels, and it's like, oh my God, we worry about our friends, our family.
Right.
And yes, sometimes it's appropriate to do that, but sometimes we don't know how to stop that.
Mhm.
And it's really important to have boundaries. And
Mhm.
so many of us as women just don't really know how to have such clarity with that.
Right.
And I learned as an older age woman, more mature, that that is critical.
Mhm.
And I love, love, love teaching the younger women, like it's critical to have your boundaries. And there's something incredibly powerful and empowering and healthy to make sure you keep that in business as an entrepreneur, but you also do that as a woman and just as your personal domain, that you're always authentic and that you're living out of that space
Mhm.
so that people know exactly who you are and that authenticity. And it's always empowering, and you're living a life of true vitality at that point.
Right.
You're not drained,
Mhm.
you're not at that level of draining. So that's where my nursing, it really empowered me to that level. I mean, I have all that science behind it, and that's where, I live with a sense of logic in what I coach, but I can bring in that right brain, that
Mhm.
creative side that there's, I used to teach the doctors because I've taught this, that there's so much just with oxygen is one thing I say. You can't see, feel, hear, taste, or touch it,
Mhm.
but we live off of oxygen, right?
Right.
There is so much we can't see and hear and taste and touch and feel, and yet it's there.
Mhm.
It's the faith for those who have a belief in a higher power, right?
Mhm.
It is that. It is what we can't feel.
Mhm.
And but that right brain, and right now they're saying, so much has changed in our brain, that neuroplasticity. It's that portion that we can make us more whole and expansive in everything we deliver. And so that's part of what mind mapping does.
Mhm.
Mind mapping gets into the right brain, but it allows you to deliver in a logical way in the left brain what you learn from the right brain. Everything starts with your mind first, and then it delivers out of the left brain.
That's pretty important because I know that as a young person, I had real challenge delivering what I knew,
Mm,
what I inherently knew, and what my
right,
intuition was telling me
right,
to get it to somebody, deliver to somebody who could only understand logic.
right,
That was a real
right.
challenge. And I know it is for
It's
a lot of people.
one of the things I'm also a certified trainer with Infinite Possibilities. For any of the audience out there who've heard of Mike Dooley, and he teaches Infinite Possibilities. So I do too. And I train, I have had wonderful, wonderful mentors and trainers in the past 10 years. But so I've taught Infinite Possibilities to doctors and to accountants. And I remember teaching this one doctor who trained at I think it was Stanford.
Mhm.
And he was in this class, so he's open-minded. And he had an issue. And I said, look, I'm going to talk to you about Oracle cards. And I said, you don't need to believe in this. I said, I'm going to ask you to look at pictures to reach a new answer. And so, whether it's mind mapping or tapping or pictures, oracle cards or tarot cards, it's asking you to look at something with a different perspective
Mhm.
to reach a new answer. And he was allowing himself to do that. And we worked on a specific problem. And he came back the next week. And I said, yeah, let me know how it goes. And he said, oh my God, Joellen, let me tell you this answer. And I said, and I just sat and smiled because I said, yeah, I know. And that's what happens when you coach with people and allow
Mhm.
them to say, are you willing? Are you just willing to be open? You don't have to believe in your
Mhm.
intuition.
Mhm.
There are those who still don't. You
Right.
can be very logical. That's okay. You don't have to believe, for me, in a higher power. That's okay. We're going to work with just your brain. But I happen to love working with the higher power, right? But if you can at least give those space to work with what we can't see, feel, hear, taste, or touch, and
Mhm.
allow your right brain to work with the subconscious, then that creates space
Mhm.
for magic,
Right.
absolute magic to happen. And then your left brain can take over and then, allow things to just flow.
Mhm.
And we're not fighting against, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. And that's how I coach. There's this space of just holding this magic for people
Mhm.
and customizing it to what their needs are. And that's, built in science and love and magic and universe.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
if somebody, I'm going to bring it back down to earth here a little bit.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
They can go to my website, just joellennewman.com. It's all one
Okay.
word, Joellen Newman, NEWMAN.com.
Okay.
And they can do the same thing at joe@joellennewman.com and send me a personal email.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Joellen. This has
Oh,
been delightful.
oh, Jan, this has been wonderful. It's so nice to be with you and to be here, meeting you in person again. So thank you.
I totally agree. It's delightful. All
Thank
right.
you.